started, welcome to our first San Francisco chapter meeting. This is my first time running it as president, so let's see how it goes. I'd like to introduce Rose Tidcombe from Thermax. She is our chapter secretary, so please give her a virtual hand.
Good morning. Thank you, Angel.
Yeah, good morning, Rose. I'd also like to thank any of our gold sponsors out there. So I know Granger is a gold sponsor. Thank you for being that. And I think I saw somebody from Fact on there, but if I missed anybody, please raise your hand in the chat and we'll give you some kudos. As you all know, Mike retired at the end of the year, and we're hoping to give him a little celebratory bash here coming up pretty soon. I'll get the word out. With that, I'd like to turn over to Rose to go over the calendar items for the next couple of months.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So upcoming, we're going to have in March a forensic analytical water management program speech, and then in April we will be having the vendor show back in Oakland, I believe, and in June we will have the annual sushi event in Lake Tahoe, and then finally our golf event in July at Blackhawk in Danville.
And with the golf tournament, we're still working it out with the Blackhawk Country Club to see if our contract's still in place, but more will come out from that in the next couple months. All right. Do you have any questions on the calendar? Nope. All right. Well, I'd like to introduce Tom Ruff and Amy Meineke from Granger. As I mentioned, they're gold sponsors, and we have a great presentation today on behavioral health. This is near and dear to my heart because one of my hospitals has a behavioral health unit. Near and dear, yes, near and dear. Let me go ahead and turn it over to Tom and Amy.
Great, thank you, Angel. And my name's Tom Ruff. I'm the district sales manager for healthcare in Northern California for Granger, and I'm also the chapter secretary for CSHI's Redwood chapter. And it gives me pleasure to be here today and present the Granger team. Amy, why don't you take it from here and introduce Sean and Vicki?
Okay, I'm Amy Meineke, and I work in the East Bay for Granger, and I call on all hospital accounts. Tom is my manager, and we're excited to be here today to present behavioral health. And I want to introduce Sean Elliott and both Vicki Franklin. They will be putting on our presentation today on behavioral health. And then if you both want to say a little bit about yourselves, you can.
Sean, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Amy. My name is Sean Elliott, and I am one of the regional sales managers for Morris Group International, which encompasses Best Care. And I'm out of Charlotte, North Carolina, if the Southern drawl didn't give that away. And today we're just, we'll touch on a couple compliance regulations and safety fixtures with my part of the presentation.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everybody. My name is Vicki Franklin. I work for Granger as part of our healthcare strategy team. I have responsibility for our behavioral health offer. It started back probably around 2008, 2009. I started building out an offer and have continued working on that for the last, 10 years, more than that probably. And I do just want to thank you all for the opportunity for Sean and I to share our knowledge with you on a topic of great importance. And Angel, I was very happy to hear you say that you have a passion for this topic. I guarantee you, Sean and I do as well. So may have to rein us in. We could talk for hours on this topic. So let's start with a couple of behavioral health facts. Pre-COVID.
Hey, Vicki. Vicki,
Yes,
can I just stop for a second? So
absolutely.
as we were pre-planning this meeting, what we thought it'd be good is to have Q&A along the way. So I'm going to be moderating the chat. If anyone wants to just jump in and ask either Sean or Vicki a question, let's answer the questions as they come up and are relevant to the slide that they're on. And I'm going to help with that.
Excellent. Glad to hear that, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks.
So it is estimated that there are between 48 and 65 hospital inpatient suicides that occur every year. That's a really scary number to look at, and it's one of the reasons that there is so much focus on behavioral health and ligature resistance, keeping our hospitals safe. Hanging is the most common method of inpatient suicides. And the facts show us that 75% of inpatient suicides occur in the patient bathroom, patient bedroom, or the closet, which means that these are the highest risk areas in your behavioral health unit. This number, next bullet, is really important because it's kind of set the stage for what we have been experiencing in behavioral health for the last 6 or 7 years. The number of state hospital public psychiatric beds has plummeted almost 97%. There's an estimated 356,000 mentally ill people in this country that are being held in jails and prisons, with an additional 200,000 who are homeless and 34,000 who are lost to suicide every year. So as a result of there being this massive shortage of public psychiatric beds, places where people with mental health to go. And what we're finding today is that 1 in 8 between 2006 and 2014. Now, I'm hearing from our customers and from the thought leaders out there that things are getting a little bit easier in terms of mental health patients showing up in the emergency department. It's now becoming almost so commonplace that a lot of the hospitals have made changes in their emergency departments. So the lack of inpatient beds that we talked about, that 97% decrease, has led to boarding mental health patients in the ED. And because, again, there's not always somewhere to transfer them to, it's leading to boarding of mental health patients in the ED. So there's a lot of focus now on the emergency department and making sure that there are rooms within that area that are appropriate for a suicidal patient or a mental health patient.
Hey, Vicki, quick question.
Yes.
What accounts for the huge reduction in behavioral health beds?
From what I understand, Tom, it had to do with all of the reduction in a lot of state and local funding. So if y'all remember back to 2008, 2009, when we went through that, let's call it massive recession, that's when things really started to get impacted. So a lot of states had to cut funding in a lot of different areas. And unfortunately, one of the areas that they chose to underfund most often was their mental health,
Okay.
clinics and hospitals, et cetera.
Thanks, Vicki.
You're welcome. So then, added to all of these facts that we just talked about on the last slide, we now have COVID, the pandemic that has come into our lives in the last 2 years. And I think everyone on this call will agree that that has led to an increase in mental health issues due to isolation, unemployment, and stress. So we talked about the emergency department being kind of that stopgap for mental health patients to get some type of care and treatment. The latest figures are that 5.5 million ED visits per year are because of mental illness and substance abuse. And as we all know, that increase puts a lot of pressure on an ED staff that is already working at top speed, distracted, worrying about all of the COVID patients, et cetera. And this is just really creating a lot of increased pressure in the emergency department. They're seeing a rise in psychiatric visits in the emergency departments. As many mentally ill people as we have on a regular basis, the COVID, the pandemic has really amplified that a lot. They're not able to get care from their physician who is busy in other areas. So it's just really put a strain on the emergency departments. And then when you look at the frontline workers in the United States, 71% of them are concerned about the ability to stay safe in their workplace. 55% of frontline workers are concerned about the impact on the pandemic on their mental health. And if you look at just those healthcare providers that have been surveyed, 47% of them are feeling angry or irritable. 60% are feeling anxious, 46% are feeling sad or depressed, and 47% are having trouble sleeping. So while 9 in 10 people surveyed believe that access to mental health care is more important now more than ever as a result of the pandemic, only 6 in 10 believe that the pandemic has made it more difficult to access mental care. So we kind of have this whole catch-22 situation going on. There's a much greater need for mental health care, but there is a lot less opportunity for patients to get that care because of the pandemic. So this was a fact that I found really interesting. I'd never heard this spoken about before, but there have been studies that are done about suicide attempts. And what those studies have shown is that if an attempt is interrupted and it becomes a failed attempt, there is a 90% chance that that person will not attempt suicide again. So all of us can have a part in interrupting those suicidal attempts by creating a safe environment for these patients. So one of the key things that is really important when you're talking about mental health and keeping patients safe is finding that balance between risk and safety. So here are some of the areas that you should be focusing on within your facility to help keep both patients and staff safe. So we talked about the fact that 75% of inpatient suicides occur in the patient bedroom or bathroom, and these are considered high-risk areas. So some of the things you need to keep top of mind and really focus on as you're doing your risk assessment are there plumbing fixtures and bathroom hardware that are ligature resistant? Are there ceiling tiles on the ceilings? All of the ceilings in patient bathrooms and patient bedrooms must be a hard ceiling. Is the furniture heavy or bolted down so it can't be thrown? Is there a shower curtain? That is a real gray area within behavioral health, and even how Joint Commission is scoring that. So if there is a shower curtain, is it breakaway? But more important in my view is understanding if there is a way to remove the shower curtain while still preventing slips, trips, and falls from water on the floor. And there are a lot of really innovative products that are out there right now. There's special doors that will take the place of a shower curtain within a patient bathroom. Are there controls on the lighting fixtures so the patient can control the amount of light that they have? And then when you're looking at those medium risk areas, places like corridors, common rooms, is there a TV enclosure that's ligature resistant? Is there any glass or plastic, excuse me, that can be broken or used as a weapon? And are the doors equipped with automatic closers? And do they automatically lock when the last person leaves the room? So we talked about that balance between risk and safety. So we just talked about the safety aspects. Now let's talk about some design considerations that take into account risk and should be part of your risk assessment. So these considerations have been found to improve patient outcomes when it comes to mental health. Open nurses station can improve the interaction between the staff and the patients. Access to daylight has been shown to have a positive effect on patients and their outcomes. You want to try as much as possible to allow patients to personalize their space and have control over their own comfort. So when you think about these patients in a mental health unit, they are basically locked up and have very, very limited control over what they can do on a day-by-day basis. So anything that you can do to give them back some level of control has been shown to be extremely helpful. They've also found that bringing nature into the space through environmental design and artwork is very important. It creates like a calming atmosphere for those patients. And one of the key goals is to provide a normative, stress-reducing, highly therapeutic environment. So all of you are very familiar with regulations, right? It's kind of your life, is making sure that you're meeting all of the regulations. And I will tell you just from my own experience, as I've been putting this offer together, and then speaking with a lot of customers in the field, compliance when it comes to behavioral health is a really big challenge. So when you look at this picture, it's a regular gooseneck faucet that seems like something that you normally see within a healthcare environment, right? But when it comes to behavioral health, you have to think about those ligature points, which is considered to be any point where a cord, a rope, a bed sheet, you would be amazed at what patients sometimes use in order to hang themselves. So any of those things that can be used for tying or binding, and then you use it to hang yourself, you need to be aware of what those things are and remove them from the environment. And we're mainly talking here about ligature resistant products. They have special features that prevent the attachment of a ligature point. So something you should definitely be looking at. So I love this visual. This is something that our great partner Best Care shares during a lot of their presentations. So right now you're looking at kind of a standard hospital bathroom that could be in any patient room, correct? How many potential ligature points can you call out? So looking at everything in this picture, how many ligature points do you think there are in the average patient room? This is going to shock you. There are 26 or more ligature points. So take a look at where some of these orange arrows are pointing to. Things like the faucets, the sinks, the grab bars, the shower heads and the shower controls, the toilets, the flush valves, grab bars, towel holders, toilet paper holders, you name it, just about every item that you find in a patient bathroom has the potential for becoming a ligature point. And I'm sure all of you are very familiar with this, the SAFER matrix. It's used as an evaluation tool to assess the range of patients and their proclivity to harm themselves. So this is actually one, it's not the SAFER matrix, but this is from, oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. There is another matrix out there that is very similar to this, and it helps you identify what the risk element is. So it was put together by Jim Hunt and David Sine. You all may be familiar with them. They are very big thought leaders within the behavioral health community. And they use a matrix that measures the amount of risk in a certain area. So remember, we talked about like a common room would be medium risk. So that would be, halfway on the line. Bedroom and bathroom at the far end. And then what is the likelihood of the patient to commit suicide? Do they have no thoughts whatsoever of harming themselves, or are they highly suicidal? And that helps you determine where you need to work to make the changes that need to be made. One of our biggest concerns that we run into as we talk to customers and we attend conferences is the question, what products will keep my patient safe? So here are some of the challenges that all of you are probably facing within your behavioral health units every day. There is no national standard out there for ligature resistant products. There's inconsistency in the Joint Commission surveys. So I have heard instances of a surveyor going into one hospital and the hospital is cited for something in their behavioral health unit, while another hospital 5 miles away, surveyed by a different surveyor, is not cited for the exact same thing. And I truly believe that the Joint Commission will be the first to tell you that that has been a challenge for them as well, is understanding what the whole ligature resistant piece means and what their standards need to be. There are issues with contractors not following the specifications. I hear that's becoming more and more common. So you've identified all the areas where there's risk, you need to make some changes. You hire a contractor, they get the specs, and all of a sudden they start value engineering it. It is an evolving environment out there. So what was good today in terms of being ligature resistant, God forbid something may happen a month or two, a year, 2 years from now. And all of a sudden that product that everybody thought was fine is no longer fine. So you need to keep up with the evolution of what's going on with the technology. And there are a lot of gray areas. I talked about it earlier with shower curtains. You know, you're concerned with the patient privacy when they're in the shower, but you're also concerned about whether or not that patient is going to harm themselves while they're behind that shower. So my thought is, at the end of the day, it is imperative that every organization conducts a risk assessment of their physical environment, but also their patient population. So hopefully that has kind of set the stage for what we're looking at nowadays in the world of behavioral health. I'm going to turn it over to Sean Elliott, my partner from Best Care, and he's going to talk to you about products and some of the things that you need to look for. So Sean.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Sean Elliott from Morris Group International, which umbrellas Best Care. And what Vicky's saying is very true. I'd like to touch on the 75% of suicides happening in the bathrooms. And that is because those are bathrooms, closets, and showers. Those are areas where patients can remove themselves from caregiver observation. You usually have a door that's closed, a shower curtain that you can hide from, or a closet door where you can escape observation. And that's why most of those suicides happen in these areas and why they're considered high risk. So if you'd flip to the next slide, Vicky, please. The NABH, which is the National Association of Behavioral Health, says that toilets as a focus should be flush to the floor, have secure seats, flush to the wall, and enclose all valve and piping. Another thing that we're focusing on right now is fixtures being made of china. China is essentially glass, and when those are broken, become sharp shards, and patients can use those to either harm themselves or harm the caregivers. Toilets being flushed to the floor will eliminate any spaces underneath the fixture so that a patient can't loop a ligature around the fixture and hang underneath it. So we want to make sure that we're eliminating all gaps and all anchor points from our toilets. Next slide, please, Vicki. So here we have a visual of what you should be covering your plumbing in your toilets with, concealing the plumbets on the toilets with concealed flush valves behind the wall. There are access panels which grant the maintenance supervisor or the contractor access to the valve to change out parts, do renovations, or just general maintenance on it. Exposed plumbing with a top supply valve is enclosed with a stainless steel cover box with actuation buttons on the front of it, which are completely ligature resistant. Slope tops and slope sides eliminate any access to loop a ligature around the top of the fixture. And there's no gapping because the toilet and the flush valve cover are made to fit somewhat seamless. They do require a small amount of caulking, but it eliminates gapping and therefore eliminating or reducing the risk of a ligature issue. Sinks are another issue that we have ligature risk, and to ensure that they're ligature resistant, a sink will need tamper resistant screws, sloped backsplashes and side splashes, approved grid drains, and again have all plumbing concealed by a stainless steel or plastic shroud. And with COVID making its way through healthcare facilities, in addition to patient safety, infection control and cleanliness have become a primary focus in facilities now. So like we have pictured here, the dual station lavatory, that allows shared bathrooms. It allows the patients to distance themselves as well as giving them their own sink to use, which will eliminate contamination issues. And when retrofitting or putting a ligature resistant sink in your facility, you'll want to look for something now, especially that is all one piece, a solid surface material or a stainless steel where the sink bowl is integral to the fixture. That's going to eliminate any cracks, crevices or seams that will require caulking, because that's where water collects in those seams. It makes the caulking mildew sometimes, which requires the maintenance staff to pull the caulking out and recaulk. It's also a breeding ground for bacteria. So we want to look for sinks and or stainless steel and solid surface sinks with the integral bowl to eliminate all of those crevices and seams. Next slide, please. We've done research and conversations with patients to touch back on what Vicki said about giving the patients more choice and a little bit more sense of normality. So we actually have conversations with the caregivers and the patients themselves, and we get some feedback on some stuff that you probably never really think about, like giving them choices. Typically, commercial facilities like healthcare hospitals use tempering faucets and showers, which have the water usually set between 90 and 110 degrees. And changing that to a dual temperature faucet, a hot and cold, actually gives the patient the power of choice. And it ties in with that close to normal environment we're trying to give back. And what that does is allows the patients to choose whether they want to brush their teeth with cold water and wash their face and hands with warm water, a luxury that we take for granted here at home. It gives the patients the option to brush their teeth with cold water, which is something that we never thought about. And talking to those patients, that was a primary issue with them. So it's kind of put things back into perspective for us as to what we can do to offer the patients a closer to normal environment. Same thing with the showers. We want to kind of move away from the temp controlled faucets and showers, and to give the patient the choice of temperature. And also in a shower, metering valves, we try to get away from those, because the frustration of constantly pushing the button for 60 seconds of water is an issue with patients. And so when retrofitting a shower, you want to look for something that's going to give them the option of choice with the temperature. And the handles are easily activated to meet ADA for a universal design, which is what we promote. We want all of the facilities to have ADA toilets and ADA shower valves and faucets, so that they're not backed into a corner with 5 ADA rooms and 8 patients that require ADA. This kind of gives you the freedom to put a patient in a room and have the confidence that they'll be taken care of. Another thing that is overlooked as a ligature risk in that bathroom that Vicki showed with all of the ligature points is something that shocked me is floor drains. These are a risk because patients can loop a ligature through the grid of the drain and then around their neck and alligator roll until they asphyxiate. So we also know patients try to clog drains, which creates environmental and security hazards. So a solution to that would be to install a linear drain. Those can be integrated into shower bases. They're very hard to clog, and they have a wide drainage space, so that you could actually put these in front of a shower to eliminate the shower losing my mind. We eliminate the shower curtain, because in addition to what Vicki was saying, when you pull the shower curtain down, it itself becomes a ligature. So that is a very gray area. So we're trying to move towards our bathrooms looking somewhat like a hotel bathroom. If you've been at a Courtyard Marriott, you know there's no shower doors on some of those. You just walk in through the back of them. There's a big linear drain in front of it to keep the water from escaping the shower basin out into the room. So this is a great idea to put in there to eliminate all of those frustrations. Next slide, please, Vicki. Accessory pieces. This is another thing to give a little bit more normality to a room. These can be easily retrofitted. They can be installed recessed, semi-recessed, or surface mounted. They all have slope tops and slope sides to eliminate anchor points. Fixtures are powder coated stainless steel, so they're very durable. We offer spring-loaded toilet paper and paper towel holders for standard rolls to be used, or if the facility has C-fold paper towels already on hand, there are C-fold paper towel dispensers, and that will allow the facility not to have to dual stock paper towels and toilet paper rolls. they can just use universal C-fold paper towel throughout the facility. Next slide, please, Vicki. Mirrors. When choosing a mirror for a patient bedroom, you want to look for a polished stainless steel or a solid surface versus glass to avoid shatter, which again gives the patient a sharp shard of glass. Sloped edges and tamper-resistant screws are a must. In some more volatile rooms, like the mirror you see there with the screw holes up in the top left, it requires a direct surface-mounted mirror because it's in a volatile environment. But if the building does any shifting or settling, it can shift the mirror a bit, and it gives a reflection that we refer to in as a funhouse reflection. And that can make the patient feel bad as they see a distorted view of themselves. It's another thing that we learned in talking to them. So if possible, you'll want to look for a mirror that is mounted to a surface-mounted bracket so that it gives a little bit of leeway to the shifting of the building, and it won't give you that distorted view of yourself if you're looking in the mirror. Next slide, please, Vicki. This is a dignity suite. This is kind of what I was talking about, as having the bathroom that resembles a hotel. All of our fixtures are powder coated white, so they give that normality of the bathroom you would have in your home. The Dignity Suite provides a close to normal environment, and studies have shown in talkings that we've had that a room full of stainless steel fixtures resembles a prison or a correctional facility, and that could possibly make the patient feel like they're being punished for being sick. So we want to move away from that and give them that normal aesthetic to make them feel comfortable. And when a patient's comfortable, it's been proven that they're more open to positive treatment. Next slide, please, Vicki. There's actually 4 suites that have been introduced to really fit any type of installation. The Dignity Suite, like we just talked about, we have the new construction suite, the renovation suite, and the ADA suite. Again, the ADA suite promoting universal design. Toilets being stainless steel and flush to the floor will actually hold almost 5,000 pounds. So they could fit into that bariatric conversation, but their seats are just not wide enough. But being stainless steel, you have the durability and the flexibility to have that universal design throughout the facility. And I think that wraps up my part of the presentation. So I will give it power back to the wonderful Miss Vicki Franklin.
Thank you, Sean. Great job. So Sean has shared with all of you some of the parameters around products. So what types of things you need to be learning as you make your mental health unit more ligature resistant. So he's told you about all of the different product categories and what the main attributes are, which is always a big help. So I mentioned before that through the years, as I've been working on this offer, enhancing it and collecting more and more data and information, both from authorities out there, as well as our customers, because they always seem to give us the best information possible and help us kind of go down the right road. We talked about some of the challenges that you guys face when it comes to mental health units. We talked about the fact that there are no national standards for ligature resistant. So nobody is 100% sure when they pick a product and put it in their facility, whether or not Joint Commission is going to come by, survey, and say, nope, can't use this. This is not acceptable. There's also some additional challenges that you all face. A lot of these buildings where mental health units are older buildings, and it's difficult to reconstruct that and turn that into a ligature resistant secured unit where patients can be easily monitored. Another challenge is staff being expected to identify patients at high risk for suicide and self-harm, and making sure that they're in an environment where that can't happen. And in order to do that, the staff needs to eliminate items that a patient can use as a weapon or to harm the staff, or as a method for self-harm. And then this one is kind of a big one at the end. Joint Commission and CMS consider ligature points and items that can be used by the patient to harm themselves or others as immediate jeopardy, which could affect their deemed status. So while there's all of these challenges brewing and products change on a regular basis because they're found that they're not actually safe, there are some resources out there that can help you. One of them is the ASHI suicide checklist. So it's actually a list, you can find it on ASHI's website. In the suicide prevention portal. It actually breaks, it's an Excel spreadsheet that actually breaks areas down by the type of area. So like patient room, patient bathroom, etc. And it asks you some things to look for. So as you're looking at a patient bedroom, have you checked this? Have you checked that, etc.? That's a great resource. There's also something very similar that the VA has put out. It's the mental health environment of care checklist. Basically the same thought process of identifying the area and then telling you what to look for. And there are other resources out on the suicide prevention portal on the ASHI site. There's actually a very cool interactive tool that will show you a patient bathroom, for example. And when you hover over certain items, it will tell you what that item must look like or be for ligature resistant. So definitely a lot of resources that are out there. I want to share with you one resource that Granger has put together that our customers are finding a great deal of value in. So there are respected resources that are out on the internet that you can go to and look at their standards. One of the most commonly used is the New York State Office of Mental Health. They have a 220-page document that will tell you their recommendations on different types of product categories. So New York State joins with Architecture Plus. They both do testing on the products themselves. They then rate it, and you see those down at the bottom. So they're accepted, they're used with caution, or they're rejected. That gets updated every 6 months. So that, the disclaimer on that is that it's for use in New York State hospitals, but I will tell you that that's used throughout the country by just about anybody that has a mental health unit. The other respected source is the Behavioral Health Design Guide. So I mentioned that matrix earlier that was put together by Jim Hunt and David Sine. They also are responsible for putting together the Behavioral Health Design Guide. It used to be managed by FGI. That has changed now. It's totally managed by Jim Hunt on his website. I love this document because it has the whole first part of it as a narrative. So it tells you risk level 1, these are the type of areas, and these are all the things you need to think about and look for. Level 2, etc. And then there are some products that are listed as part of an appendix. The third resource is by the VA. They had a set of standards that were in place since probably 2010 they just recently in 2021 have updated their guidance, and there's now a guide out there where you can find some additional information that is used by all of the VAs to make sure that they are all standardizing on the right products and making sure that they have been tested by the VA and approved. So that brings me to Granger's tool. So it is called Granger's Behavioral Health Product Selection Guide. Some of you may already have heard of this from your account managers. It had its beginning when I had a meeting with the executive VP for behavioral health for one of the large health systems in this country. I kind of walked him through a presentation that I had put together, and he said, okay, that's great. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to create an Excel file for me. I want you to give me the manufacturer's model number, your Granger item number, a description, and show me a picture and show me my price. So I took that challenge and put something together for him, but it has morphed into something much, much bigger. I took the opportunity to take the information from the New York State Guide, the Behavioral Health Design Guide, and the VA specifications, and put them all into one workbook. So saving you a lot of time and effort and uncertainty by bringing those three resources together for you in one document. So you don't have to go out and read through the entire 200 and some pages from New York. And the same thing with the Behavioral Health Design Guide. It's all right here for you. It's divided into tabs by product categories. This one happens to be the tab for plumbing fixtures. As you can see, we have the image, we have the Granger item number, manufacturer name and model number, a description. And then in these columns here over on the right-hand side, this is the information from those three guides. So first we have New York State and what their recommendation is, page number where you can find all the info. Then we have the design guide does not recommend. This is just showing items that are in the appendix of the Behavioral Health Design Guide. And then we have a symbol for those that are part of the VA standards. If a product is used with caution by New York State, we have the notes in here that tells you why they made that determination. And we also tell you what the risk level is for this particular item. So this is a great example if you're looking for a toilet. Makes it very, very easy for you. If you look at the one on the first row, you can say, aha, okay, this is a toilet. It's made by Best Care. New York State has accepted it, but they say use with caution. And here's why. It's in the Behavioral Health Design Guide, and it's in the VA standards. So this is definitely a product that I want to get further information on to make a decision as I'm looking for toilets for my behavioral health unit. So our customers love this, makes life a whole lot easier. You can get access to this from your local Granger sales rep, and I am always available to help you with questions and things like that. So my thought to you to end this is let's end mental health stigma together. So that brings us to questions and answers. So Tom, did we get any?
Vicki, we haven't gotten any new questions over the chat, but we can open it up for some Q&A.
Awesome, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Hopefully you found this to be very beneficial. I know this is a very tough area for our customers. So whatever we can do, both Granger and Best Care to help you make that a whole lot easier. That's what we're here for.
Hey, Vicki, this is Scott Sandin at St. Helena Hospital. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have you run across any products on the market that purport to be appropriate for behavioral health environment, but are actually not? Do you have any particular problematic products that you would could identify for us for avoidance?
That is an excellent question. And I'm glad you brought it up, because that is definitely one of the pitfalls when it comes to this particular environment. So aside from Granger, the other folks that are involved in selling ligature resistant products are mainly internet companies. So just like anybody else that sells products on the internet, you kind of have to be a little bit careful and make sure that you do your homework, and that what they're saying a product does or can do, it actually does. I have seen products, and unfortunately, none are coming to my mind at this exact moment. But
Hey, Vicki, I
yes.
get provided kind of a general example around that.
Oh, that would be
'cause,
great, Tom. Thank you.
So what Scott's talking about is, the challenge as a building manager to find a product that's in compliance with one of the standards that Vicki mentioned, whether it's the New York State Design Guide or I think the VA are kind of the two prominent. So imagine having like two NFPA 70E standards by two different agencies, right? So that's the analogy. If you've got like two agencies managing electrical safety, that could be a real challenge as a building manager to put a product in that's compliant. And what we've seen is that products aren't being sold that aren't compliant per se, but what's happening is the window is moving. And so something that was sold maybe 10 years ago that was seen as ligature resistant and may have had the sign off of New York State or VA is they're coming back and pulling those products from compliance standards. And that's the challenge that we have in this space. And that's why the tool that Vicki put together is really valuable, because I think that what you have to prepare for is who's going to assess you and what standard are they going to use. And so if you've made a determination that, hey, we're going to standardize around the New York State Design Guide, and therefore we're going to stick with these products, it would make, the third thing you'd want to do is make sure whoever is assessing you and holding your facility in compliance is also using that standard as well.
Can I
Thanks,
interject
Tom.
real quick?
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on what you guys are saying right there. Those design guides, we use the New York Office Mental Health Design Guide, but we have to remind people that it's only a guide. They do update their assessments every 6 months, but they only put it out every year. So we run up against all the time somebody saying this product's not in the design guide or this product was denied. We could be denied and then fix it a month later and it still shows us as non-compliant. So it's very important for the facility to do their research and working with your supplier and the manufacturer to make sure that you're putting stuff in place that is going to fit your need. And one example that we have is toilet seats right now. The hinges on toilet seats are definitely a ligature risk, but there has not been a sentinel event yet or an issue to demand that the seats be replaced. So until, that's why we changed it from anti-ligature to ligature resistant, because nothing is really anti-ligature. Nothing's ligature proof. So we do our best to minimize the risk and therefore be proactive instead of reactive. Once an event happens, that's when the eyebrows go up and everybody's like, okay, now we have an issue with a toilet seat, or now we have an issue with something else. So it's really up to the facility to work with the supplier and their vendor to make sure they're getting what's going to best fit their need. And that's with every manufacturer, not just us.
Great points.
Great question, Scott.
I would like to make just a quick mention. Granger does carry a product called Pick Proof Caulking. I strongly recommend it for your behavioral health applications. That stuff is, it looks really good, and it is really hard to pull out of the crevices. It will not be vandalized or abused. Pick Proof Caulking.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I actually had a conversation once with Jim Hunt around putting items on the walls or even on the ceilings. And the analogy or the comment that he made to me was, I have never seen yet a wall that is completely straight. So when you put something on a wall, it's going to have some type of gaps somewhere around the perimeter. And that's where Pick Proof Caulk comes in, is it seals those gaps and it keeps patients from being able to put some type of a string, a shoelace, whatever they may get a hold of around that fixture and potentially hang themselves. This is kind of an interesting story. We heard about a patient that was in the common area and he was playing around with the Monopoly game. And what he ended up doing was taking the dog token, for lack of a better word, took it back to his room. And after several hours of being alone and trying to do something with this token, he discovered that he could use it to undo snake eye type tamper-proof screws. So the screws that have the two holes in the head, he used that token, something that's probably in a whole lot of behavioral health kind of common rooms, and was able to take things out and get into areas that he shouldn't be in. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If you have any of those snake eye type tamper resistant screws in your behavioral health unit, please change those out immediately.
Yeah, and Vicki, if I can add one more area to consider, Scott speaking reminded me of a conversation I had with him almost probably 12, 13 years ago about tool carts. And so if you are serving a behavioral health population, you're also serving their families as well. And part of your assessment point should be your material handling carts, your engineer carts, because that creates opportunities for people to pick up a product that might be dangerous to them, might be a box cutter or knife or saw blade, something like that. So making sure that the carts that are traveling through your facilities are secure is also important.
Absolutely.
I'd like to share one more experience I had very recently. Just last week, I was doing a safety inspection in our behavioral health unit and discovered that a very recently installed shower door had been vandalized by one of our patients. We had overlooked the stainless steel fire rating tag, the label on the door frame. And the patient had found it and pulled off one rivet and had made significant progress toward pulling the other rivet off. Had he succeeded before we found it, he would have had himself a handy little stainless steel blade, very sharp. We had removed all such tags from our fire doors years before, but we had recently done a shower remodel and this door and frame went in, and we actually did 2 doors and frames. The first one went in with a Mylar tag on it. The second one came in with a stainless steel tag, and we didn't catch it until it was almost too late. So keep an eye out for those fire rating tags on your doors and frames. They can be turned into weapons.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think that kind of the moral of the stories that we're talking about here is when somebody has a whole lot of time by themselves,
Yep.
they can come up with some really ingenious ways of turning what may look like a normal item into something that can be used for self-harm or harming staff. So I think the best answer to that is put yourself in that patient's shoes and see what around you could potentially be used to create problems.
Yeah, one of the things is partnering with the staff and leadership of the behavioral health unit and understanding that nothing is ligature proof.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, Vicki, it's got time and some ideas can cause a lot of havoc and patient harm. So,
Yep, absolutely.
Great.
Well, Angel, we'll turn it back
Um,
over to you. Thanks a lot for the time today, and really appreciate the opportunity to help our CSHE members with behavioral health.
Yeah, great. Vicki, Sean, and the Granger team, thank you so much. This was a great presentation. If anybody would like the slides, we can reach out to Beth so she can post them out or send them out. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Okay. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having us.
Angel.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
everyone.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.